3-week series on Easy Like Sunday Morning actually ends today. I think you're sad it's ending, not so much the content. You just missed Christo and Lionel Richie on Sunday morning, I think is what you miss. That's a big hit for Lionel Richie and the Commodores years ago. It raises that question. Is it supposed to be easy? Is what we do supposed to be easy like Sunday morning? And is everything about Jesus designed to be easy, which gives birth to the next thought. If it's easy, at some point, is it boring? And therefore, have too many Christians actually got bored just by believing in Christ? Is it frustrating to just believe? What if Jesus promises a life way more than just believing? And remember, to go back a little bit, we're not going to live our life in the what. You know what to do. You know what Christians are supposed to be like. If all we do is the what, you can believe and do the what, and that leaves us empty. So much more important to grasp the why. When we end up living out the what, we become functional atheists. Because what is merely believing? In a functional atheist, they may go to church, but they function like an atheist. Christ is not part of my life at all. He's not part of my daily walk, but I'll go to church. I'm part of a church. I like this church. I like that church, but I function as an atheist because I know what to do. Merely believing asks nothing of me. Just believe. Complete. Following is continuing to always ask more of me as I'm growing. Jesus certainly asks us to do a whole lot more than believe. Satan believes. To believe is, in fact, Satan's invitation, because I do not need the Holy Spirit to believe. I can do that. I can do that on my own. So we always come back, how much of Jesus do I want in my life? Am I really going to follow? Do I want him in my everyday life? That could be risky. Frankly, I kind of like him far away. I like him on a shelf I pull off when I need him. But in my everyday life, leading and directing where I'm actually following, that's a little bit risky. And so we begin to wrestle with these issues. Let's begin to tack on today. The thing that becomes tricky, how do we talk to a crowd like this where everybody identifies? Because we're all so different. You say, time out, Gene. We're no more different than the man on the moon. I mean, we probably reflect Valparaiso. Valparaiso is a wonderful community, but it's a white Anglo-Saxon community. There's some diversity here, but Valparaiso was basically a white Anglo-Saxon bunch of people. And VNC represents that. We've got some diversity, but by and large, we're kind of a white Anglo-Saxon church. And after all white people are all alike. And therefore, I guess all people of color they're all alike. And if you're Hispanic background, if you're Asian background, fill in the blank, everybody of a certain grace must fit in the same pocket because they're really all alike. Now, there's exceptions, but in the big picture, by and large, all in all, we're all alike. So it must be easy to put something before us all that we all identify with. I almost thought that was true a long, long time ago, but I learned how different we were. All the way back when I was engaged to Tammy. I had dated some in high school, but nothing that huge. Tammy was the one. And for the first time, I was ingrained in another family. Because as we were engaged, I began to participate in their family events. I was part of their family. And our family, I think family culture, a lot of times is set by the mom. And I don't want to say too much, but by and large, there's exceptions. By and large, mom does the cooking. And the foods you eat tend to set your family heritage, family culture. My mother is Swedish, so I grew up on Swedish food. All the Swedish traditions, those event meals, Christmas, Thanksgiving. We had Swedish meatballs for as far as the eye can see. That's heaven to me. And the Swedes have a bread called limpa. If you're not raised on it, you're probably not going to care for it. But I was raised on it. A fresh, hot limpa out of the oven, that's heaven. As Tammy and I got more serious, I was invited to their family events, and her heritage is Polish. At their family events, there's not a Swedish meatball in the joint. That's crazy. Even more bizarre, they ate food from another planet. Pierogi. That's not tasty at all. And even more frightening to me with my heritage, there are whole towns that have festivals. Pierogi Festival. Has the world gone mad? Who in the world eats pierogi at Christmas? Well, Polish people do. Her dad was the ultimate practical joker. And once I was in love with his daughter and had to have him fall in love with me, I became the obvious target. And I had to earn my way into that family. And they were going out to a big family dinner, to a restaurant that's I guess, somewhat famous in the Polish culture. Now, just point of information, the city with the most Polish people in the world, the largest Polish population, is Warsaw, Poland. Kind of a duh. But what surprises people, the number 2 largest Polish population in a city is Chicago, Illinois. There's a gigantic Polish community, and within this Polish community, there's a restaurant called the Warsaw Inn. To go there for Polish people is a treat. I know. So it was one of those big event things, and I was part of the family. We all went to Warsaw Inn. So we're sitting there, and it's this wonderful round table. Tammy's got 2 sisters, and Tammy and her mom and dad. Her dad's right here, and Tammy's right here. And he leans into me and says, you know, if you're going to be one of us, the soup course, because it's all these courses, you got to order czarnina. So I thought, what am I going to do? Tell him, no. I love your daughter. I'm marrying her, but it ain't going to happen. So the soup course comes. I ordered czarnina. Now, it should have been obvious nobody else at the table ordered czarnina. And Tammy's a little older than her sisters, and her sisters are doing that controlled laughter with the shoulders, you know. I'm thinking, man, I'm going under the bus. The soup came, it was a really small dish, but if I'm lying, I'm dying. It was black. It was like coal. It was the thick, black soup. And I'm thinking, oh, man, oh, man. So they're all, you know, we pray, have our soup. The spoon is very small. I thought, I'm just going to take a little bit and try. I took some, and I thought, well, this is easy. There's literally no taste. I thought, I could kick this back. There's literally no taste. I thought, I don't know if he thought I was messing with me or a practical joke. This soup is nothing. It is completely tasteless. And then the next second, this aftertaste comes up out of your stomach that is incredibly hot. I mean, I had fillings running for cover. It was just, sweat is coming on my over a little spoonful. I'm looking at this bowl. I'm going, oh my word, I can't. There's no way. So I lean into Tammy, who's doing the, and I really said, what is czarnina? And she had to catch her breath from laughing. And she whispered back, duck's blood soup. And I said, thank you for telling me. The belief that all white people or all people of color or all people of many, that we're all basically alike. It's not true. It's amazing how diverse we all are, particularly in our family traditions. We come from different backgrounds, different economic, social strata, different industries, different parts of the world. And so it begs the question, is there anything, despite how diverse we really are, is there anything that says all of us can equally agree? All of us have this in common. I think I got it. I think the one thing, despite our vast diversity, the one thing that I'm positive every single person can say, I identify with that, is pain and anxiety. Everybody, I don't care your skin color, I don't care your background, I don't care your wealth level, I don't care about any of that stuff. The fact of the matter is, we all have had an episode or maybe multiple episodes where you were damaged. Every one of us. Your pain might be physical, might be mental, might be emotional, might be spiritual. But no matter the source, we got hurt. No matter the background, we got hurt. We're all bruised somewhere. Abandonment, betrayal, ongoing sickness, loneliness, abuse, neglect, loss, rejection. Hit a nerve with anybody? One of those hit home? Adversity takes a toll because in this world, you and I must confront the reality of pain. And never forget, this is Satan's world. It's very clear at the temptation of Jesus. He said, I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. He said, they're mine to give. Jesus doesn't correct him at this point. The world is Satan's, filled with pain. If you don't think it's not Satan's, then watch the news tonight. So every fact kind of gives birth to a question, doesn't it? I think the more we learn, the better the questions. But the question now becomes, is it possible to experience the fullness of Jesus Christ even when life is kicking the daylights out of me? Can we be faithful, true followers even when we've been betrayed? Can we find real hope, fulfillment, even when we're in the depths of despair? Yes, as a matter of fact. But this fullness of life, even when we're damaged, never comes by the way of easy like Sunday morning Jesus. Never. That's why being a follower of Christ is so important, because it sure comes in handy when life collapses on me and you. Easy like Sunday morning Jesus disappoints us every single time a pain comes. There's no power in belief. There's power in following. Easy like Sunday morning is supposed to keep us safe from all of the wounds. Easy like Sunday morning Jesus, I believe in Jesus, it never rains on me. Easy like Sunday morning Jesus is supposed to keep me safe from hurt, or at least quickly alleviate the pain. Hear me. Despite whatever pain you may be handed in your life, God can be trusted. Despite whatever pain you've been handed in your life, God can be trusted. But for some, when the pain comes, if they're merely believing in Jesus, if they're living easy like Sunday morning Jesus, when the pain really comes, Jesus let me down. He failed me. He's asleep on the job. Because easy like Sunday morning Jesus is all about me. Real Jesus is about his glory. Real Jesus is about kingdom. Big difference here. Easy like Sunday morning Jesus is supposed to deliver us from any life pain. Real Jesus lets us go through the pain for his glory. We'll talk about that. We'll lay that out in a second. We'll never experience redemption from pain, from hurt, from bleeding, from damage, unless we go through it with Jesus. And this is hard. This is not easy like Sunday morning Jesus. We might as well tell the truth up front. It's hard. And we're always adverse to anything of pain, anything that makes me bleed, because pain is painful. That's a deep thought. That's why you come every week, isn't it? It hurts. And because it's hurt, we recoil from it. That's natural. We try to avoid it. That's natural. We try to escape it. Of course we do. That's natural. Our problem, we try to escape it by one of two things. We tend to run from it or numb ourselves to it. And neither strategy works for a long time. We run a couple of ways. We deny it doesn't exist. We ignore the reality, or at least refuse to acknowledge how deep it really has affected us or affects us now. We'll even shut down others if in love they try to confront us about it. We'll distract ourselves. We keep ourselves very busy. We keep our minds occupied. We'll find something somewhere else outside of the hurt to keep our emotions in play. We run from it. Oh, and then there's numbing it. Of course, industries are built on offering the best painkillers money can buy. But you don't have to pay top dollar to numb it. We can numb it ourselves. There's cheap ways to numb the pain. More work, more media, more food. We can distract ourselves from the pain. The problem with running and numbing, the problem is they both work. Come on, they do, but not for long. They will work. And they're going to give you some short-term wins, but the hard piece of the puzzle there, they don't work permanently. They don't work long. And we begin to fall in love with these short little snippets of wins when the pain is still really there. The wise thing, own our pain. That means we stare down the wound, we stare down the bleed, we stare down the hurt. No matter how big the wound may be, we acknowledge it happened, we acknowledge it hurt. And this is real stuff. And now Jesus comes along and says, real Jesus, not easy like Sunday morning Jesus, I will partner with you. Which brings us to one of my favorite passages. Before I read it, let me give you 2 seconds of background. They say one way to get a real good handle on what Jesus is saying is to know who he's talking to. Back in the time of Jesus, there were a lot of ways to make a buck. But there were 3 basic industries. Probably your family was fishing, farming, or shepherds. And Jesus talks to all these groups, and it's amazing to me how well he connects with these groups. For instance, if he's talking to shepherds, he's saying, you know, you guys, what do you do when you have 100 sheep and 99 at the end of the day count? Well, those guys have lived that. Now he's teaching the very same lesson to fishermen. He's not talking about sheep. He's talking, saying, well, what do you guys do when you're mending your nets? Well, that's their life. Same teaching. Now he's with farmers. He's saying, you know, you got these different kinds of soil. It's amazing how good he is at knowing exactly who these people are and talking about their life. That helps us understand Scripture. Who's he talking to? The verse I want you to see right now, understand he's talking to a farming community. Matthew 11, 28 and 29. Come to me, all of you who are tired and heavy loads. Stop right there. Is that not everybody? Who's not exhausted? Who doesn't have something wearing you down? Who's not hurt somewhere? He said, if that's you, come to me. Now I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. What on earth is he talking about? The kicker line there, talking to farmers, I will yoke with you. Those guys perked up because they would understand if there's an ox trying to move a stone, trying to move a large load, and he can't, they would literally yoke them, piece of wood, and you've probably seen it, where the two, put another ox with them, they'd go shoulder by shoulder, and the two of them can move the load. Jesus is saying, is there a load that you can't bear? Don't pretend it's not there. Own it. Know what it is. And allow me to partner with you. I will do more than partner with you. I will actually yoke with you. I will partner with you so much that we're shoulder to shoulder. And together, we will move the load. You know there are people out there breaking all the time? Well, they should. Did he just say that? Yeah, he did. They should. If you don't know Christ, if you're not breaking now, you're going to break sooner or later, because at some point you're going to have to pull a load without Christ. You were never designed to do that. He made clear there are loads in your life, there are episodes that are more than you can bear. I'm going to partner with you. I don't want you to carry that alone. I never designed you to carry that alone. It's Satan's world. He's going to find a load to break you. When that happens, I will partner with you in such a way. I will yoke with you. Now look what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, as long as you serve me, I'll make the load go away. It'll just disappear. That's my promise to you. I can't wait for you to find that verse. He says, that load's there. Let's admit it together. But I tell you what, I'm partnering with you so that I receive glory. I will yoke with you, all who are heavy laden. When a pain, a burden, that bleeding is not dealt with, it begins to have power over us. We don't like to admit that anything can have power over us, but it can. There are events in your past life that are living rent-free in your soul that are damaging you today. There are events today that could damage you 10 years down the road that's living rent-free in your soul. They will damage you unless they're dealt with Christ. Part of it, I think we're taught at an early age. Keep going. Real strength is almost like a bulletproofness. Don't let anything get you down. So we almost say, well, nothing will get me down. We almost gloss over things like they didn't happen. And they pop out of our subconscious and begin to eat us up again. You didn't really hurt. That will never lead to the fulfillment of life, of understanding Christ yoking with me. If I never admit the problem, I never have the need for Christ to partner with me in it. And when that happens, it stunts your spiritual growth. It even stunts your emotional growth. The pain, that hurt might be our opportunity to live out his partnership. That pain might be our unique opportunity to understand what it is to yoke. Frederick Buechner, the great author, his book, Secrets in the Dark. I don't want to read this paragraph to you. I want you to see it at the same time. Put it on the screen. Take a look at what this guy wrote. If you manage to put behind you the painful things that happened to you as if they never really happened, or don't really matter all that much when they did, then the deepest and most human things you have in you to become are apt not to happen either. Yikes. If you can successfully, which you're not really, if you can successfully somehow suppress so much the hurt that it never really happened, then the positive things in your life, the other side of the coin, the things that should not be suppressed are going to get suppressed along with it. We damage ourselves that much. Pain is as much a reality of life as joy and laughter. Maybe the fullness of life is kind of found on both sides of that coin. When we allow and recognize what happened, I'm bleeding, and here's where I'm bleeding. We now allow Jesus to yoke with us. We now begin to sense victory over that, over the past damage. We're no longer pretending something never happened. Easy like Sunday morning, Jesus just takes it all away. That never really happened. I'm fine. The problem is down deep inside, you know you're not. And that's when Satan roars at you and says, you know something? You're still bleeding and you know it and I know it, and Jesus let you down. Or you let Jesus down. Easy like Sunday morning Jesus begins to foster so many lies. Owning the problem allows us to show someone else the hurt. Yeah, you ever notice the first thing Jesus did when he came to his disciples after his resurrection? The very first thing he did, I mean, you got to go there. Jesus appears to them pretty quick. It is the evening of Easter. He's rose from the dead. The tomb has been shown empty. The disciples gather together in this room. They're full of confusion. The news is just out. It's fresh. It happened today. They know the tomb is empty. They're confused. They're a little frightened. What are the Jews going to do? And in the middle of this confusion, discussion, what do we do next? What will happen? In the middle of all this, bang, Jesus stands there. In the middle of all of them. The one that is crucified, dead, is now alive, standing right there. Did you ever notice the first thing Jesus did? John remembered it clearly. John 20, 19 and 20. Let's go to that event. When it was evening on the first day of the week, the followers were together. The doors were locked because they were afraid of the Jews. Then Jesus came and stood right in the middle of them and said, peace be with you. I'm sure he had to settle them down. After he said this, he showed them his hands and his side. The very first thing Jesus demonstrated, the very first thing Jesus did, he showed him his wound. Now, one of the disciples happened to not be there. You know the story. Oh, Tommy wasn't there. Doubting Thomas. He finally arrives, and the disciples go, you missed it. Are you kidding me? Jesus was just here. He's alive. We saw him. And Thomas is going, whoa, 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 slow down. And Thomas is skeptical. He said, I can't wrap my head around this. In fact, unless I can put my hand in his side, unless I put my hand where the wound is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Well, Jesus accommodates him. John 20. 27, just a few verses down, Jesus comes back and says, then he said to Thomas, put your finger here and look at my hands. Put your hand here on my side. Stop being the unbeliever and believe. The big deal here, well, so many, but the one I want to point out now. Jesus willingly puts his wounds on display as irrefutable evidence of his victory over sin and death. The first thing he shows them is the wounds. He puts his wounds on display as irrefutable evidence over his victory over sin and death. When we put our wounds on display, it becomes irrefutable evidence of Jesus' victory in our life. When we put our wounds on display, it begins to become irrefutable evidence of Jesus' power and victory in our life, to his victory, his glory. Part of the reason that we have the wounds in our life, part of the reason that we have been broken because we are so fragile, it gives us the opportunity to yoke with him and then again give him glory and praise as it shows again irrefutable evidence of his victory in our life. Why is it then? Again, every deeper thought gives birth to a question. Why are our followers so reluctant to show others our wound? And could that be one of the reasons why churches have lost credibility? Because we don't show our wounds. It leaves culture with only one of three possible thoughts. One, they can't relate to the church because it's filled with people with no wounds. Therefore, it's no place for the wounded because they got wounds. So they must not be really welcome. Or two, they don't trust the church because they know we got wounds, filled with people with wounds. But we're so good at covering them up or lying about them, why would anybody want to be part of a hypocritical group? Or three, there's no need for the church because God can't heal their wounds. When we deny, cover up, dismiss our wounds, we kind of basically deny the story of our healing. The power of Jesus gets lost, or it becomes a whisper. It's not the polished, cleaned up life that has influence. It doesn't show the reality of God's power. When they see our wounds and see how we yoke with Christ, with our wounds, not the false Jesus, not the easy Jesus, not the boring Jesus, not the one that pretends we're not wounded, not the one that pretends we're not broken, not the one that pretends we're never hurt, or the one that magically makes it all disappear, but we're in his yoke and we heal. We're living a real unpolished life. We're living the dynamic of Christ in our life, and it becomes very powerful to everybody that knows our story. Because there's somebody else that says, I went through the same thing. Is that power available to me? Because your wound is probably not unique. There's somebody else out there that knows the wound you're going through, and they see how you're going through it. They're going to want to know, how are you doing that? Because they want to scream, can I? Can I do the me too for me? I don't want to waste time with a commercial, but I got to tell you this. The baptismal service is coming up early November at VNC. Okay, commercial's done. I love the baptismal service. I love the event. I love when people are being baptized. I love the celebration. That's all part. But you know my favorite? The thing that I just think makes that whole event come alive? Stories. The stories they tell. Because they write their story, their conversion story. And as they're coming in the pool, that's being read, and you get to know them. You get to hear their story. And frankly, I'm always a little amazed at how transparent and willing to share. People, and we don't edit them. We let them share what they want. We hear stories of abuse and abandonment, broken homes, damages in their life, and how Jesus stepped in. How that unique power of Christ and yoking, and how he's even used this church, and it is powerful. And as that story is told, you can feel it in the room. You've been in these services. You can feel it around you. There's more than just a rallying around this person. There's more than just a celebration of what you're hearing. You're beginning to become part of it. And then when they're baptized and the applause, it's not just that functional. I mean, there's applause because they're so honest. They're so compelling. I like it when it's my turn to do the baptism because that puts me up here. And in the water, I like hearing the story, but I like watching you. Because there are people sometimes that I feel like, I think this is your story. Now, I'm probably naive to it. But the way you're reacting, the way you're nodding your head, and the way you're partnering in that story, you're not just kind of celebrating and cheering them on. I feel like as you're there with that story, you almost want to stand up and yell, me too! You're more than identifying. We all love those rags to riches, but how much more powerful they are real stories. Perseverance and victory. Jesus stepped in. Everything changed. Some of you sitting in that baptismal service are right there where that person was, hoping that something will change. It becomes a testimony. It becomes to God be the glory. Some of you identify more than you almost should because you're living it right there, and you want to stand up and go, cry out loud, that's me too. The power of the baptismal service, I think, is the event of the baptism. It's what they're doing. All that's powerful, but to me, the power are those stories. And watching the way you react, you can feel it. You can feel the me too. What do you do when you break? And it's been a theme in this series of Easy Like Sunday Morning, so let me just give it to you one more time. There is no power going to the person who merely believes. When you are a follower, all power is unleashed. I can believe without this church. I can believe without the Holy Spirit. I believe. But when I'm a follower, day in, day out, growing, following, advancing, sensing, life change, there is power. And when I break, he comes alongside and say, I'm yoking with you. We're going to go through this together. He partners with me and you.